I think that's good. It's 25 of, I think we can begin. Call the meeting to order. And do you have a copy, and could you read the sunshine notice, please?
This is the regular meeting of the Environmental Commission of the Borough of Fairhaven. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, public meetings may be held in person or by means of communication equipment to include streaming services and other online meeting platforms. This meeting is being held in person and through the Zoom meeting platform, being broadcast from Borough Hall, 748 River Road, Fairhaven, New Jersey. Public participation for this regular meeting on July 13th, 2022 is available by call-in phone number or through Zoom. Members of the public will be on mute until it is time for questions, comments, which will be announced. At that time, the public has the opportunity to question, comment by phone or through Zoom by the raise hand button and will be called on at the appropriate time. Notice of this meeting was sent to the Asbury Park Press, Two River Times, and the Star Ledger on January 28th, 2022. Posted on the Borough website, the bulletin board of the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. With adequate notice having been given, the Environmental Commission Secretary is directed to include the statement in the minutes of the meeting.
Okay, thank you. I have a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, next on the list then is the roll call.
DiMaselli? Here. Flanagan?
Here. Can you hear me?
McKee?
Yeah.
Absent. Murray? Absent. Olson?
Here.
Patterson?
Here.
Peters? Rice? Windrum?
Here.
Councilwoman Cole? Here. Okay, you have a quorum.
Okay, very good then. So the next item on the agenda is the approval of the June minutes. I trust people have read them, is that correct?
Mhm.
And are there any corrections or additions? There being none, I would view them as being accepted unless I hear objection. No objection, the minutes are accepted. Okay, now moving on, we'll move into item 6. And we begin, I think some of you know, but I'm close to getting blind. Legally, I am blind, but I can read with this sort of thing. So the first item on the agenda now is the green team. I know that Kelly's been making a lot of progress there. I think we'll move past that item tonight. We'll hear again from her in the next meeting.
Anything to add, Kelly?
We met yesterday and we got our final or our first round of reviews, comments back from our Sustainable Jersey application. So we received and have already been approved for 160 points, which allows us and maintains our certification of bronze. Some of our comments were simple housekeeping things if files did not download properly. So, and some other, we discussed at thorough length some other actions that we hope to resubmit for our next go around, which is the end of August 28th. So I think we're in good shape. We're gonna come back together by August 5th and see where we are, on our path to silver.
And you're expecting still to have a possible candidacy for silver?
We hope to. Now this will be our second round out of 3. And we hope to make substantial, because we applied for 265 points. This last go around, we were awarded 160. And as I mentioned, we hope to get those back just with a couple tweaks. And even shoot for more. So we've been talking to Councilwoman Cole and Councilman McHugh yesterday. So we met with them and are hoping to strive towards that. We will let you know the beginning of August where or how far off we are from our
Good. Now,
350 count.
if I can be helpful in there, just feel free to call me at any time.
Thank you, Ralph.
Okay, I think you're doing a great job. I know it was moving along well.
We have
Can
a
I
wonderful team.
Sure.
Kelly, I thought I might mention that we are also hosting a film at Bicentennial Hall. Is that allowed to be noted? It's hopefully happening either, we have to secure the date, but 11th or the 18th of August. And it's gonna, what's the name of the film, Kelly?
The name of the film is called Kiss the Ground, and it's all about soil health and going back to the ground and the importance of soil health. And it's a 45-minute film, free for us to use. And yeah, it should be a great night and bring more awareness to Bicentennial Hall, but just get some of the community out, for a great environmental, focused activity.
Okay, thank you, Kelly.
Will you be showing the Love Where You Live video?
I think that was the plan. We'll do a little peek of the Love Where You Live Day video first, and then we'll show the video, our
Yes, and
feature
our
film.
Nice.
yeah, right, a little short, and then I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
He just asked if it's being advertised. We just secured that the locations were, that Bicentennial Hall
Okay,
is
so
available, so we will
need to get it
definitely.
in 2 at a times.
Yeah,
Do we want, yeah, we can do that. I mean, I think
Think we
more
should.
so, especially in the town. So we're definitely
Yeah.
give it to Betty Ann. We'll do it on our social pages. We'll share it into some of the local groups.
Great,
But we can get it out to 2 times.
but.
and we
Betty,
hope-
it's
we
fine.
hope to use this not only to create awareness for the By Hall, but also the Green Team, and then perhaps even some fundraising for the Green Team by just selling refreshments that could be used to further, some of our causes and the plantings that we hope to do in the fall with the rain gardens and different things like that.
I have a question.
Sure.
So silver sounds better than bronze, but I don't know what it means. Could you give me like the elevator pitch of, it seems like everyone's on board with it, but are there any burdens associated with it?
There are 3, correct me if I'm
The
wrong,
hard
Kelly.
work behind it, but
There are 3 levels, gold, silver, and bronze. Bronze is considerably easier than silver in terms of points. And gold is not out of reach, but it's very difficult to get to. It seems to me that stretching real hard, and I've got a lot of faith in what Kelly and her team can do, stretching real hard, we might make bronze this year. Bronze is
Silver.
simply another, pardon?
oh, we, silver? Silver.
Silver, I'm sorry, I said bronze. Silver. Stretching a little bit, more than a little bit, we might make silver. Silver will put us in a position where I believe that Rumson just became silver.
I didn't know that.
I think so.
Mhm.
I think so. So the way I judge these levels is what other towns have accomplished them and what they are doing, what we think of those towns. Rumson is silver, Middletown is still.
Middletown
yeah.
and Rumson are both silver.
Pardon me?
Middletown is silver
Middletown
too.
is, okay. Middletown and Rumson are both silver. Colts Neck, I think, was silver, right?
I'm sorry.
I think Colts Neck,
I know Asbury Park is silver. And I want to say Red Bank is close to it. They've been awarded 280 points. It's kind of like the surrounding towns are. And so Brian, also too, not only is it, the feather in the hat, but you also are eligible for more grant opportunities and awards through the state. And we just learned at the Sustainability Summit conference that a couple of us went to in June. This program is also being replicated in New Jersey was the first of this program, but it's being replicated in a couple other states as well. And it's growing and expanding. But there's a lot of, federal money that can come through as well. But and a lot of these actions we are already doing. So we've been talking to Councilwoman Cole, and she's, a lot of this stuff we've already been doing. It's just a matter of cataloging it and getting credit for it and, for some of these actions as well, so.
And I know you're doing that well, so to be more specific, to answer your question, I rate those not necessarily by points, but by the company that you're in the towns, and whether you feel that, Fairhaven belongs in that company, or maybe above it. I don't think it belongs.
Is it a
below it.
platinum?
Pardon
Do
me?
they have a platinum level?
No, there is no platinum level. There will be when enough people.
And
show up.
Okay.
yeah, there's bronze and silver. There is no gold status, but you can be awarded gold stars. So there are different categories that you can get gold stars for going
Above.
above
That's
and beyond.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we look at the towns that have those and we say, that's where we belong. And it's also used quite popularly in the press. You read about it from time to time. So the town gets an image.
And to reiterate, a lot of these things are things we're already doing, it's just us understanding and compiling all that information. So that's where some of the hard work comes in, realizing who has the information, getting that all together, understanding what we are actually doing. I mean, there are things that we learned all along the way that we didn't know we were doing in the town. And then there are some initiatives that we have taken that also got us some points as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda is Carter's Pond. I've talked to Teresa recently and the council is well aware of it now. And I think their hearts are in the right place and they're going to move ahead. And what we need to do is sort of track it as it moves. So there's some money issues there, obviously. There are some timing issues because once you get the description from the consultant that we use of what the project is, then you need to have 30 days until you can start moving from that point. And you have to, discussions have to be available for the public to see. So there'll be some things that will make it go more slowly than we wish.
Does that put us out of the window of, like, what happens in the meantime? Is the pond just sitting there and not getting?
The pond is sitting there and not getting what it should be getting, yes. But look, I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll take it. It's going to be right out.
would you like me to update you with what I do know?
Yeah,
So the council has allocated the funds, which was a big hurdle. The
Right.
Funds have been secured and
they're
allocated.
out. Yeah, that's
They
great.
are not bonded dollars. There's no interest on this. This is coming out of a fund that's wholly separate from our operating budget, so it's not impacting the regular expenses that are ongoing. And so I'm happy about that for maintenance.
Terry should be.
Yeah.
She should be happy about it because she triggered.
Did some work, but I think everyone feels that this is a priority.
Yeah.
So the collective will is there, the funds are allocated at this point. The next step is to identify the proper specifications that that the hydro raking bids will have to do. So the job has to basically be scoped and specified. And then that will, which is one set of work. And then that is what will go out to bid, and we will receive bids and then authorize one of them, and the work will get scheduled. Their CME obviously has been retained, and they'll be asked to prepare. They'll be asked to give us a cost. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also Nigerian, who has been sort of in this.
He's done it
vein.
before.
He's done it before, and there's some thinking that maybe it's not so much for them to take it a step further and update what they've already done in the past. So those are two things that Teresa is advancing for the Environmental Commission.
Thank you for adding that. Yeah, but I think this is moving now. It'll be harder to stop than start. Okay. Any others? Any other folks? No? Okay. Let's see, on the McCarter Pond, I think we're covered with that. The next item is one of Brian's and we'll skip that on the Navasink River. Although with all the boat traffic, It's disgustingly dirty again. I look down on it from the dock every few days to see how it looks. Okay, now the Stormex drain, I went out with Brian to be, and with Nick. Nick, by the way, has an impressive set of skills. Nick Krasinski, he's Rich's assistant. And we looked at the Stormex. It's essentially, in the simplest description, it's a bag that hangs there and catches what comes out of it and lets the water go through, catches what comes out of the pipes. The pipe there is an 18-inch pipe, or probably 18-inch pipe, maybe 15. So it's much smaller than some of the other pipes in town. But it's going to be a field trial in the sense that we want to see whether the maintenance techniques that are supposed to be used can actually be used, that people on the DPW will go out there. It's not easy to get to this pipe because the dock is here, there's a bulkhead here, and the pipe comes out. And to get in there and to get a bag heavily loaded out of there is going to take designing some sort of pulley arrangement to bring it up on the dock. So that's what Nick is going to have to do, and they're going to do it as quickly as they can. So I expect by our next meeting, we will have basically their assessment of how it worked. Now, does that mean it'll work for the next one? Well, the next pipe is a 3-foot pipe. The bag therefore has to have not 2, but 4 times the amount of garbage if it's picked up at the same time. It may have to be picked up more commonly, like once a week. An awful lot of trash comes out from the storm sewer. I get to see it regularly, and I look at it, and it's just pouring out. Candy wrappers and all sorts of things. So I'm amazed more of it isn't on the beach, it goes out into the water. So we'll have to give you a progress report as it goes along.
When is that
When
supposed to be installed?
Pardon me?
When is it supposed to be installed?
It'll be installed in the next week or two, I think.
No.
Yeah, he's ready to do it now. It's a matter of getting it in, getting the people scheduled, so.
Brian did send me a quote to circulate to the group, but then realized they had the wrong numbers in there and they weren't able to get back to Brian in time. So we're not meeting again until September, but
We're talking in the few thousands of dollars.
Yes.
We're not talking huge numbers, so. And Teresa's already said that she will be able to find a grant to cover it. So we're in good shape there. Okay. After the item E here is the stormwater ordinance. I think we're going to, if there's nobody has anything to talk about that tonight, I have nothing new there. We have an ordinance that we put together at the state's request. Some people are unhappy with it. I know that. I've got several who called me and told me they were unhappy with it, that it was too much of a copy of the state's, didn't go far enough beyond what the state put on paper. My reaction is it's a big step forward from where we were. Let's see how we do with it, and we can always add to it. Okay, next on the list is an item I'd like to spend some time on now. And that's the living shoreline plan. And we have that plan at a property that we're looking at in Normandy. And we'll have it at more properties. And I personally have some experience with having a living shoreline. And I say that because we've had to do a lot of work to keep the shoreline from keep digging in every year and losing a few more inches of your shore. the boat traffic alone in the summer, the time you see the erosion is during the boat traffic and all the high waves. And 1 or 2 storms a year. So what we are doing, what is being done at the Normandy, what is recommended at the Normandy, and there's a memo to this effect, which
Is that what you sent us?
that's the one that, that's right, that's the one that we.
And I circulated.
Yeah,
With
Yesterday.
the adding and the 2-to-1 ratio and all that.
yeah, yeah. That shows just the beginnings of what we understand as to what has to be done. And you notice that for that small piece of property, you're talking something in the order of $90,000, including $30,000 worth of sand for start. And then getting the sand delivered and put down and all of that. Now, if we have more properties that have a living shoreline, it seemed to me that we're gonna have to add some money to the budget. And I've already talked to Teresa about that. And did not get very much encouragement that there was money to be added. The council would be very interested in adding a lot of money to the budget for living shoreline. I know Teresa would like to have a living shoreline. 1, she's in favor, but 2, she hopes it doesn't cost too much. So that's my takeaway from my discussion. I'd like to hear your points of view on what we do in recommending a living shoreline going forward at the various properties that we have and will have. There'll be more.
Questions? So if, again, it sounds great, the words living shoreline, I would be against that. The sand, so if what I read was, is it $30,000 worth of sand? So if the sand gets put on there, do you have to reapply it every year? Or would the plants stop that? So it'd be a one-time thing? Or do storms take it away and you have to keep, if it's recurring, that's a different analysis than if it's just a one-time thing.
Time will tell.
Okay.
History on the Jersey Shore is that we pump sand in continuously every year, and it gets taken out every year.
By storms?
By the normal water action, by storms. And so if you look at the beaches, they shrink down from, they maybe end up with a 200-foot beach once they've pumped the sand back in. And 3 or 4 years later, you're back down to a 100-foot beach. Disappears quite rapidly. I personally don't think that anybody has found a way of keeping the sand there. There are a number of things in the memo that you read that they're going to try and do, including matting.
May I address a couple of things?
Sure.
So there is a difference, of course, between dredging and supplementing beach and the surge of tide action on the beach, and then a living shoreline on a tidal river. It's considered an alternative to bulkheads. It's more natural. It perturbs a habitat that can support the sort of natural ecosystem, and the engineering standards used to design a living shoreline with the intention of retaining the land. The sand is actually to regrade it for a gentler slope such that the tidal rivers and storm surge don't take the land. And then the riprap and other kind of nettings and plantings, because they're native, and the idea is it's a natural habitat you're building, that it begins to take care of itself and it does the job of retaining land. So you're not losing the park. That's conceptually the idea of a living shoreline. It doesn't just to have plants so that birds, it's actually doing a job. But with that in mind, may I just expand on the?
Please do.
Okay, so the de Normandy Park, and I should say, I spent a bit of time on this with Nick Porcinski. Teresa was there, and so was Councilman McHugh. And this has more than one part. The living shoreline is one piece of how to retain the park at William Allen Robards Park at the end of Normandy. The other two major pieces have to do with addressing the storm water that comes down to Normandy, which will also affect the health of the river. But if it's not properly addressed, it can create a
Just
problem.
wash
in
the
the
sand.
park. It'll
Let
wash the
let me
sand.
interrupt at that point.
Mhm.
This part of town has, to my knowledge, I saw no storm sewers.
There-
Anywhere.
That's right.
And so I think that we have forever counted on streets going into the river to carry the water from River Road.
In this area, you're
And if
right.
that's the case, I believe we've got to invest in some storm sewers
There
to
is-
save the beach.
Yeah, what's proposed here is a fairly good size rain garden, quite substantial. The calculations are intended to capture the storm runoff such that it doesn't take the beach or the park, and to lose some of the impervious surface at the end of the Normandy. So you would get an additional area that, when that storm water is running at high velocity and high volume, it takes whatever's in its way, trash,
Right.
beach, whatever. So the less of that runway it has, will slow it down with the rain garden. And then the idea is that this is going to help retain the park, address the stormwater issues that do exist there, and do it in a more natural way. Living shorelines actually do work. Though in this location, I don't have any way of analyzing that.
So are we committed to sand and but we talked about rock that's heavier that can't
That's
get
the
washed away?
riprap, right, that's netted rocks and
Oh, that's what it
riprap
is.
that helps to,
Okay.
helps to
I see.
stabilize the ground.
Was that part of this? Because I saw the netting thing, but I didn't realize so they're doing that rock kind of.
Yeah, well, nobody's doing anything
Oh,
yet,
that's
to
the-
be honest. Like, what we have is, so what I learned is that the property was acquired in 2017, so it's been some years since anything's happened there. I don't know why, but, and then I think there was a period of years where it got wrapped around the axle of the Yacht Works stuff. And that situation now is tied off, and so this property is ready for time and attention. And there is about, I'm gonna say about $21,000 sort of seeded and allocated, which is not enough, but the question is, so this analysis that the American Littoral Society did, and I think in conjunction with the Stevens Institute at Rutgers, is some very, very, very helpful analysis. And because they've done all the number crunching that you need to do to determine it's 3,000, it's this much sand, this is the surge, this is be prepared for this sort of storm. So that's important, and the Littoral Society is prepared to help us submit for DEP applications. Of course, for this, you would need approvals from DEP. This is the kind of project that DEP wants to see instead of bulkheads, even though bulkheads are part of our life here on the river. And the question that's going to come at some point, right now, it's here before the Environmental Commission, and you might have much more deliberation, but the question would be, is this something, William Allen Robards Park will eventually slowly wash into the river without any intervention. It needs something. This is the current thinking and the analysis that's been provided. And it's a question, how much is this a good approach? Not that you're expected to make this sort of scientific or engineering assessment, but how else would we do it? And should we get behind it?
Now, my personal feeling is that I'd like to make a good example of this as a project where we actually, by perhaps by trial and error, but hopefully by some analytical work ahead of time, we actually are able to recommend a set of actions which have a very good chance of working.
Mhm.
And I would say to do that, it would be nice if we could work either with Rutgers in New Brunswick or Stevens in Hoboken, as well as the Literal Society, because this is the sort of thing that gets professors involved, gets master's theses to design, to help with the design work. And there's a lot of talent in both of those schools, in their engineering schools,
Mhm.
to work this.
Mhm.
I think we need a fairly high level of engineering talent to start understanding the problem. What we did, I finally, in our own property, I ended up tearing the hill in front, it was just being eaten away.
Mhm.
Ended up tearing the hill and putting stone tiers. It's not quite natural, but it's not a bulkhead either,
Mhm.
and it doesn't go up abruptly, it goes up
Mhm.
smoothly,
Mhm.
so it looks natural. That may be what you have to do, that was the only thing I could do at the time, and it worked. So I'd like to see us recommend and see one of us formulate a motion that we go out and work with one of the academic institutes to define the problem, define the options, assess what we think the options will do, and define the costs, and also maintenance costs. I'm worried about maintenance costs. We start buying properties on the water because we want them. When you buy something, you buy not only the cost of property, but you buy the maintenance costs for all the years coming. And that can be, presumably, we can limit the maintenance costs if we design this properly.
Mhm.
And
So the idea is to save the park from erosion. That's,
Yeah,
yeah,
essentially,
yeah.
and address the stormwater issues.
yeah.
The estuaries, this is really, it's a river, yeah, but it's an estuary. It's a very wide river. We have waves in good winds. 30-mile-an-hour wind will generate waves coming in all night. And those waves will work to ruin the landscape there. So it's more than, it's not tidal, it is tidal, it's not on the ocean. It doesn't have those waves, but it does have enough waves to eat it away and make a mess. So a recommendation, I would entertain a recommendation if one of you would like to make it.
Can I ask a question first?
Sure.
Are we all like a little bit there now though? Because hasn't the problem been defined? Don't we kind of essentially know what the problem is? That's how they were able to go just give us that report most recently. But wasn't it also talked about in that, or is that just,
Did you get a chance to
I
read this?
didn't we have that? Oh, I think I read that a little while
A
ago.
lot of the analysis has been completed, and I don't think it's out of date, but we can find out.
Mhm.
I don't think I did get this.
You might not have, it's
No, I didn't.
possible.
I
You,
did.
you know what, you could take my copy, that's important, and I know that
Do you have one?
that's my copy, I'm gonna give it to you.
Okay, I can run one off.
No, no, you-
I have a
you-
computer.
I can't see what he's.
Yeah, just, it's the Stevens Institute, it's probably, in. I'll check that email that you
I think we
circulated.
got the email.
I think
You
I
got,
did.
you got a lot of stuff in there.
You don't
Was
have
that
this
from today?
online, do
I
you?
don't, was that in there?
Yesterday.
Okay, I'll have to, I haven't seen it.
Lost track of my days.
I feel like I've read that before. I think.
But Michael's making a point that's worth, and Ralph, if you haven't seen that,
I haven't. No.
okay,
I think I would have been more educated if I had.
well, you might find it helpful because it does advance the very things that you are appropriately and rightly raising. And I can send some of these to you if you want, but at a certain point, and I think we're almost at that point where it's a question of, does the borough hire a firm to prepare the drawings that would be,
Implement
that
something
would
here.
implement this essentially, yes. Do we hire the firm to do the drawings so that we can put that out to bid? And, you know, I try to operate out of principles, because a lot of decisions, a lot of things come your way. And one of my core principles is that we need to take care of what we have. If you don't take care of what you have, you lose it in one way or another. And this is one of those, you know, it's just one of those pieces of property. We have a lot of open space in Fairhaven that is in need of attention. I don't know where this falls on the priority list, honestly, but it clearly hasn't been addressed yet. And it'd be interesting to know what it will cost to implement the right solutions there.
But we have to pay for the firm to do the drawings, right?
Yeah, and I think it is possible that this is the kind of initiative. I think it would get approved, of course, by the DEP, but I also think we might be able to fundraise around it and engage in assistance from other like-minded organizations like the American Borough Society. Clean Ocean Action doesn't cut people checks, you know, but other people would help to raise awareness around this. It could become a model project for other shore or other communities along the river.
That's what I would like.
I think properly done, it could be
Yeah.
a fantastic, model, but to do it properly, we have to invest in the proper professionals and completely do the installation. I don't want to do it if we can't do it right,
Yeah,
right?
that's my instinct too.
Well, and I think also, like, how far along are we in the erosion? Like, if we don't do it this year, we do it next year, how much more does that set us back? Is that more money? Is that? Just,
Another
you know,
foot.
it's hard to know.
Maybe another foot, maybe another 6 inches, you know.
Is that?
Well, bit by
Can't
bit,
keep it up
it's
forever.
sand,
I
you
know.
know, grains
I know.
at a time, but it does happen. It's for sure happening. It's a coastal bluff, and now I think it's about 2 feet. I don't know where it was before. I haven't been measuring it.
Yeah.
I bet there's a calculation in there that would explain how much, you know, 'cause you
Yeah.
probably forecast the loss based on certain standards.
Yeah.
That's what happens. It doesn't just stay in one place.
Yeah,
It would make sense to figure this out correctly, like you say, before we bought more property.
yeah,
Figure out
absolutely.
what is involved.
Mhm.
If we're not good at managing it, maybe the property should stay private or something.
Collect the taxes.
Yeah, collect the taxes.
As you read though, the literature in this kind of area, and trying to Google this, it's not that easy to Google similar cases.
Right.
But when you start reading about this, you don't find anybody who's had great deal of success
Mm.
With the living shorelines.
with living shorelines.
Yeah, that was the nature of my question is if Mother Nature is determined to get rid of it,
Mm.
I mean,
Spitting in the wind.
yeah, spitting in the wind and every year it's new sand, that doesn't make sense. So is there a way to do it more permanently? Like your property, it sounds like was done nicely, that's more permanent, you know, is there, and I assume that's what's in these analysis.
I don't think people would settle for that, though. I think people looking for a living shoreline don't want to see tears.
Well, perhaps I can make a suggestion, because you're asking smart questions, and why, you know, Nick is a good resource. Would you like to invite him to a meeting to explore, or Tim Dillian from the American Borough Society, someone who can explain why the living shoreline is proposed? Where have you seen it work before?
Yeah.
How confident are you? You
Mhm.
know, we could reach out to, I would start with the American Liberal Society, because I think they're very eager to, well, they're very hopeful. They clearly put a lot of work
Oh,
into
yeah,
this.
yeah.
So I think I don't want to speak for them, but we could ask them for.
Could
I think like
you
30 minutes.
invite them
Yes.
to our September meeting?
I'd be happy to.
I would, if that's okay with the
Christy,
group.
why don't you and I talk?
I think we ought to get as educated as we can here.
Yeah, because our role is to recommend to council, right?
That's
So we
right.
should- Yeah,
Yeah,
so let's
that's
study it. weigh out the pros and cons.
Also, just adding to it, I think it's important to note too that it's not solely the living shoreline, the rain garden, which would help minimize some of that erosion as well taking place going in there. And then also, you know, something that hasn't been done that's offshore is the cluster shells that they are, you know, to try to mitigate, you know, wave crashing onto it as well. So I think, you know, you can almost look at it like three different parts and two of which did not even exist beforehand.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I saw the cluster shells, yes. We have to ask ourselves, what do we want to see in a living shoreline? Because as you start to work the problem, I think it'll look less and less like you want to see it natural. You start putting steel mats down or any kind of mat down. Well, it's a different thing than you started with. And that you want it to have.
So I will,
What's a cluster shell?
Cluster shells are, they talk about that in one of the reports. Cluster shells are putting shells on the beach, basically, which being hard, will not be washed out one by one.
Yeah.
It's, if you put rocks in, it would do the same thing, but it might look different.
It sounds like a reef. A natural reef that breaks.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the intertidal zone. I think it'd be right there. I mean, it could be, I mean, they're doing some really good stuff on the river and even also like around, you know, the New York harbor too, with just recolonizing, like, you know, with oyster shells and other, you know, to mitigate erosion. Yeah, I'd be curious to see what it actually looks like when it's not covered in water, but that's why maybe inviting them to come speak to us and show us some examples, I think would be great. One of our green team members actually heard them speak at the Rumson Garden Club when they hosted something, and they actually brought this up as an example to other people that were in attendance there. And I think it could be a really great example, as we mentioned, of just, right, something done right, and what do we learn, and maybe this is a model for other people. But, you know, I think that they're the ones to, you know, show more examples of where we can find real, you know, real work where this has been done before.
Kelly,
So-
was it one of your people who went to Governor's Island to see what they did? Was it from your group or?
No, none of our group went to Governor's Island.
I'm gonna have to go up there and look at it.
so this is so small, but if I, you could pass it around if you want to hold my phone, but, and I'll try to get a rendering, which I have seen. But if you were walking down to Normandy, which the plan would call for curbing to channel stormwater, and to channel it away, it would sheet the other side, you know, and it would hit at the end of de Normandy, which would be then brought back to the entrance of Yacht Works,
Right.
a large rain garden. This kidney shaped thing. It's a very large rain garden that would catch the stormwater as it comes down to Normandy.
Hey, well, that's like, do they have like
Yeah,
rain gardens all like along the street?
it's really quite big.
Cool.
This is the size of the park right here. It's not a very adequate drawing to show you, but imagine this filled with wildflowers.
Yeah.
You know, certain times of the year,
Pretty.
it would be very pretty. If certain times of the year it would be in bloom, certain times of the year, you'd probably see some stone. And then the living shoreline is native plants and plants that are then growing and taking root and continuing to propagate in the riprap that is holding the sand. So if the more mature the living shoreline becomes, the more secure it is. So like,
I think we're still going to need storm sewers.
oh, well, you know, I don't
I
even know
really
if
do.
that's an option here. Outside of my wheelhouse, I can bring you somebody that you can ask.
So
But-
there could be an option.
Yeah, I don't see why. it wouldn't.
Installing an inlet and the pipes.
How big a pipe do you think you could do in there? Would you
Probably
need
a
like,
12, if Fairhaven Road does with a 12-inch pipe, it should.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably 15.
and then just an outlet at the end of,
outlet with one of those bags.
But would it be better to go into a bag at the end of an outlet onto Normandy, or would it be better to go into a rain garden?
Well, because then also
Maybe
even if it
both.
were coming out of a pipe, wouldn't that still be forcing water? I guess it would be past.
Oh, it'd
maybe
get past the.
So you have to have it past the land to then not
That's
have
right.
the effect of still draining water on, rushing
Exactly.
water onto it, right?
Exactly.
The idea with the rain garden, however, is, this is part of green infrastructure, green street design, is that you're catching the storm water before it hits the river so that it can
Yeah.
be filtered, reach the water table and discharge it in our
But with
natural.
the pipe, it would be still draining right into it.
It would go
right?
straight
Yeah.
into the river.
I assume if we talk to these people, and we're able to get enough money to, or maybe a grant, to get them to continue the work, that I'm here, and I have to read this now. They would consider these alternatives, including storm sewers, what the effect of storm sewers would be. But also the rain garden, also the clams, also any other
Sure.
approaches.
Well, we'll try to set that up for your September meeting.
John Peters joined the meeting.
Sorry, I'm late. Yeah, one thing I was gonna say is we're trying to slow the water down, right? Flowing into the river, I guess. You know, that's one of the keys, right? To let things settle out. And there's a lot of what we call sheet flow in that area, I believe. Where it's going along the surface of the streets and along the curbs,
There is.
not towards the river.
I don't think the streets are curved there.
No, again, it's just the pitch of the, I believe the Normandy pitches towards the river and the water flows down.
I think, yeah, sheet flow is right.
Yeah, it goes along the surface. I mean, my section of town is a big section of sheet flow. You know, where there's a large area that doesn't have a lot of storm sewer, it just goes along the gutter and goes down to the creek.
So I have two
Yeah.
things. Sorry, go ahead. Let me interrupt you.
No, anytime you can buffer that water and obviously give it a chance to both percolate into the ground, right? And then also, Tracy, kind of, catch more materials before it goes in the river. I mean, that's what I think you're trying to go for, right?
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So my two things, I hear a little bit of, muddled isn't the right word, but what's our goal? I think it would be good to decide exactly what we're trying to achieve and be very clear about it with these people in September. So I hear save the park from erosion from disappearing. A bulkhead would do that, but it would look terrible. A living shoreline might not save the park if it's not done right, but it would provide wildlife habitat. Bulkhead doesn't provide wildlife habitat. So what exactly is it that we're trying to do? I think it'd be smart to try to nail that down, get some consensus, and then go in that direction, because they're different things. And then the second thing is I would recommend that we try to invite the Yacht Works people to our September meeting. They're a neighbor,
Mhm.
and I think that would be smart to get their input, because it's going
Yeah,
to
it's a
affect his
good
property
idea.
potentially. and
Yeah, it's a good
Why
idea.
not be upfront
Totally.
and
We're probably gonna need their help anyway.
Yeah.
Doing their
Fine
position.
point. A goal statement is a good way to formulate your recommendation too.
yes,
And that will help to guide the council's discussion and ultimately help to attach, value to the investment
Yeah.
and what that's worth. So, nice suggestion. Ideas.
Tracy, I think that if you hand out, give us an invitation.
Mhm.
We also, you're going to, who are you going to invite in particular?
Well, I was thinking about Tim Dillian. I think that would be the right person to invite if he can be here. And if he can't, I'm sure he knows the right person to send.
It might be helpful if we could have at least one discussion with them as a group
Yes, I agree.
before we talk.
Oh, I see. How would you like to handle that?
Good question. I just thought about it. But it would
Well,
seem
why
to me
not-
the talk could be a lot more pointed if we shaped some questions for it.
Would you like to invite the commission members to send you questions and then have a one-on-one with him prior to?
That's one way of doing it, certainly. Yeah, that would be good.
Any other
That's good. Yeah, we
No, I
said
think
we
that
look-
would be, that would be helpful. It might shape his thinking and
Okay,
the talk would be even more valuable.
And this is from the Literal Society, this person?
yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And they're like engineers for this kind of thing?
He's a brilliant scientist. Kelly, could you give Tim Dillian's bio?
Could I give him,
Could
I
you
don't know
give-
him personally.
Um,
Yeah, I
he'll
mean,
know the right person to send, or where to direct Christy and I,
Got it.
if he's not the right person. Yeah, I feel confident we can bring someone here. For you
yeah,
guys.
and you know, Jessie might even know too, just through her work out there on Sandy Hook and through the NOAA. I mean, because she works with them pretty well too. So Jessie might know or have any leads, you know, or help would be helpful to contact with that.
That's a good idea. Okay.
So,
Good plan?
good plan, I think, for
Okay.
now. One open question, and that is, when can you have your questions on this to me? Could it be in 2 weeks' time, for example, so that Tracy could then use that set of questions along with her invitation?
I think we'll, if it's okay with you, Ralph, we'll, why doesn't Christy receive the questions? And then we can go through them with you, because you'll
Okay.
probably want to have your questions and,
Right,
or thoughts after you've had a chance to digest some of the material. And then maybe the first step will be a phone session.
I'm out all next week, just FYI.
That's
You were
okay.
thinking a 2 week time.
Okay.
I'm happy to facilitate after that.
okay,
So that it gives everybody a week or two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And
okay.
can we pull some of the questions that we all said tonight and just maybe, I guess we'll see them in the minutes, but because we did ask a bunch of the questions tonight, so I feel like we can
Mhm.
kind of use that to start and move from there.
Mhm.
I'll make copies and get it back to you.
Okay.
You don't have.
I know where to
It's
find
not
it.
online, yeah. It's not, pardon me, it's not online, is it? You didn't-
It must be, that's how I got it, I'm sure. If I can come across it, I will. I bet I have it on my
Well, that's
desktop.
fine.
That's-
That's fine. If you do, but I'll make a copy.
All
It's
right.
easy. And get it back to you. Okay, I think we had a useful discussion there, and I think this will be an important step forward for us for future designs of Fairhaven.
Mhm.
For example, even I'm not very happy with the planning so far, because I don't think it's gone very far for the pocket parks at the end of Grange, at the end of Hants Road.
Mhm.
It's aimed at people having comfortable seats looking over the water, but it's not aimed at preserving the water and the sand and the beach underneath.
Would you guys like to have a look at those plans? I can arrange to have
Yeah,
them.
yeah, I've seen it. Yeah,
Okay.
I'd like to see that.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe September, or do you want to wait till October? Because want to get the denormity thing moved on and then.
We could be looking at these in the same time. I mean,
Gotcha. Okay,
it's in a sense the same issues.
true. That's a good point. Okay.
There are two sets of issues with the pocket parks. One is the one that's got most attention. How will it look the nicest to attract local people who walk there and don't drive there? And I just want to look over the sunset on the Neversink. I mean that seriously. And that's the attractiveness and design of the park at the park level, which is up well above the water level. Second is, what are we doing to protect the beach underneath? And very little thought has gone into that. They were going to use bulkheading. And Rich told me that A, it was over $1,000 a foot, too expensive for anything they had in their budget. And B, there are a lot of people who just don't want to use it, it's used again. So that's fine.
Oh, Ralph, I mean, the other side of this, the end of Grange has a vertical bulkhead that's in poor state of repair.
The end of Grange is a bulkhead, the end of Hants Road is not.
Yeah, but the end of Grange has a vertical bulkhead that's in poor state of repair, as far as I know, unless something's changed.
That's right. It has to be
Very poor
removed.
state of repair. And it will be a problem if we don't do anything with it. But the end of Hants, obviously, again, it's a public access point. It's also a safety point in terms of access to the river. So for both rescue and exit, if people were, say kayak or something.
They always use Hants Road, believe me.
Yeah,
Or-
no, again,
Don't use Grange.
the end of Grange, the bulkheading is what it is. It's been there for years, but it's in poor state of repair.
Right. So your point?
That issue has been hanging. I mean, we've had the funding for quite a while. And obviously, it's not going to get any better with the inflation and all that. It's just one of those things that it's unfortunate. You're not going to have any joy in repairing it, but it's slowly getting less and less. Unless
think it
it's a state of good repair, it's not in good repair. It may be dangerous. I don't want to say that, but I just want to say it is not going to heal, right? So we're going to have to deal
It
with
needs
it.
to be ripped out,
Do
basically.
we know?
But what are you going to do? The problem is you have a vertical drop at the end of Grange.
I
The
think.
topography
John
is quite-
We're talking about Grange when you were talking about Hants.
Pardon me?
I believe, John, you may have, when Ralph was talking about Hants, it's possible that you may have thought his comments had to do with Grange.
Yeah, the bulkhead is on the end of Grange, the existing. bulkhead.
Yeah,
That's
Ralph
correct.
knows that. I think there was a little crossfire, but.
So can Ben,
Mhm,
we, kind of to your point in terms of prioritizing,
mhm.
how do we know? Like, don't we actually have to get someone to look at both of those and say, this one is gonna deteriorate faster, you need to address it? And what happened to that project if there's funding there? Like, where did that project go?
I think that the drawings, there are drawings, so you can look at them. To my knowledge, there isn't like a pool of money there to do this work yet.
Yeah, we got
Bonds.
Monmouth County Open Space money, I believe it is, to do it.
Mhm.
It's either Monmouth County Open Space or Conservation, but we got money, some funding to do it, not the complete amount, but a good portion of it.
But if there are drawings for Grange, they must have done something with the bulkheading there.
Yes, it does specify.
Replace it
For
or
the bulkhead, yes.
change the landscape by adding something with a hard surface. I don't know. That's like they did on Hants Road.
Well, you'll see the plans, and it is a bulkhead, it remains a bulkhead,
Oh.
and it does call for it to be repaired, John's right, it does, I mean, it's damaged and in need of repair. The two Parker Parks are very different, one is more on beach and a gentle slope with an outfall. Also, that needs to be addressed, because it's, as you have discussed, patch and.
Yeah.
Yeah, so clearly, both of those are in need of a level of maintenance and investment. So, but they're very different assignments. And I think you were asking about retaining the shoreline at Hants.
Yes, it has.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And when you see the drawings, you can then
You
discuss.
could also restore the shoreline of Grange.
Oh, wow. Perhaps.
And I think so.
Ralph, I don't know about that. I mean, that's a vertical wall there. It's not a beach situation at that point. I don't believe it comes out. We have Brian here. Next time we can all go take a look at it, but I believe it's a vertical wall. It's a bulkhead. I think the drop is about 8 to 12 feet
That's about right.
at the end of Grange. So I mean, it's not like you're gonna put a stairway down. It's again, a very high location.
I think Ralph is thinking of taking the McCarter Pond tilings and putting them on. Yes.
I wish you all the very best of luck on that with the DEP. That will be a lot of fun. Tracy's gonna have a long discussion.
Well, I want to look at the drawings. I'm speaking without having seen them, so I want to take a look at them.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. I think we've probably covered enough of the subject and we've got action items there. Any more discussion on this one? Okay. Then after F, We had the Jesse and the ERI, and I had some material for her, but she's not here tonight, so we'll just pass that for the next meeting. The next one are the rain gardens, Jesse, and I guess we'll again wait on that. We move to item I here, which is the invasive species in bamboo. That's taken care of as far as the ordinance is concerned.
That's
The
correct.
people are very thankful that it was, and they're making use of it. I've visited them since, so I think that was a nice, fast response. Very good. Invasive species, by the way, the money for some work there in the natural area has been thrown in with the McCarter Pond monies. And in a sense, I wish they kept them separately, but
Well, I will speak to that briefly to just say, the council has pledged support for an investment to address invasive species. Now, from a housekeeping standpoint or administrative standpoint, the $200,000 that was set aside and allocated from the Carter Pond also have language in it that should there be a balance remaining, that could also go to invasives. And the language has to be there so that it allows the council to make that decision when the time comes. It doesn't necessarily mean if there's nothing left over, there won't be anything spent on the invasives.
No.
So just as a member of that body who was in that discussion, the sense was that steps need to be taken and that some level of investment was warranted, and that arguably it should come out of that American Rescue Fund so that it doesn't hit the operating budget, and it doesn't, and that a maintenance cost doesn't become a bonded item where the taxpayers are paying interest over time.
I think it
So I
was
think
brilliant of you to take that as a bonding situation.
do my best.
I hope we hit no surprises out of the Carter Pond. There are a couple that we could, but we'll find out. Okay, then I think that if we get to item J, this is the anti-idling. I think what Teresa's planning on doing is talking with the school superintendent, talking to the parents when school resumes. And she and I gather the council, I guess Josh, are not ready to put up signs and enforce the law until we've had an adequate time to talk to the people who are doing it.
The council has not been asked that question.
I think Josh was.
Okay.
Josh and Teresa, I think.
That's
The way
possible.
my discussion went with her,
Mhm.
she had talked with him.
Okay,
But anyway, they're not ready to run off and do anything like putting up signs for it yet. That would be the first thing after the school discussions. And the second thing would be to enforce the ordinances. I think there might be a lot of pushback. I think she thinks there might be a lot of pushback on a rainy day. There is no place to park otherwise.
what do you think, Michael?
I mean, I've known for a long time, I'm not supposed to idle, so I do it sometimes, I try not to, I still feel bad, I mean, but it is a law, right?
Mhm.
So we're just reminding people of something, and I'm not being forced something new.
No, it's a 3-minute ruling right now, 3-minute rule.
So I don't know, I think we're being a little sensitive, I guess, to people's reactions to things, but I don't know. I mean, I don't see any problem with putting them up, but it's just as a reminder of something that is already in place. But if they feel more comfortable educating, people not educating, but reminding people first.
I will send out like a newsletter, like a weekly,
They do,
Yeah.
so it could be a reminder in that.
Sure.
reminder,
And we
Yeah.
can do it through
I-
community wide.
And I think like Knollwood Green Team has kind of the students, I know it was a little late started in the spring, but the students had done quite a bit of work with this. And I think the plan is to continue. There is also an action that we were trying to go for through Sustainable Jersey again, that's 10 points. It's anti-idling education and enforcement program. So it's, I think too, for our town to kind of identify and map these priority anti-idling locations, like which we know obviously are in front of Knollwood and in front of Sickles, but perhaps there are some other, areas where there's high idling. But I do think we can be sensitive towards the type of signs and the type of education materials. If you pass Little Silver School right there, on the school on Little Silver Road, you will see, please don't idle, and you'll see a picture of little kids and the smoke going right in their faces. What parent might not even think about that, but be like, oh yeah, wow, rather than in big black, big red, no idling, And so I think you can be kind of clever and informative in a way that's like, hey, did you know that this is why we're saying no idling, not just because it's a law and you can get in trouble.
Send a picture to Teresa so that she has it for the first.
Sure.
issue.
And
Kelly, that's a good idea if we can get a picture, because then I can put it on the agenda with, and Betty Ann can fold it into her, like there'll be a back to school
Sure.
communication out Borough too, so.
That would be wonderful.
right.
And back to school is the time to maybe kick it off.
Right.
So,
But do we have an I know that it's through state, there's an anti-idling law, but do we have an anti-idling resolution through the municipal government body? We do, right?
The ordinance, and.
We already have that. Okay. So I
We
mean
do.
that,
I
yeah.
thought
So
I
that,
shared that with you, actually.
Right.
Okay.
3 minutes.
so, okay. I think just that, and then some sort of like enforcement plan, which could be, I mean, it doesn't have to be anything. It could just be a little, even the kids from Knollwood could go out with a little sticker if somebody, and just say, hey, remember, don't I don't know. But that's all part of if we were looking to achieve this action as well, which would give us an additional 10 points. But we have pretty much everything except for the map and some sort of, the other stuff. But
and I also think someone made the point last meeting, reminder, it saves gas too.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
get their pocketbooks. I mean, if someone doesn't care so much about the environmental impact of it, the kids aspect of it and
Mhm.
pocketbook, maybe those are the two ways you angle it.
Oh, and your hands are cold, it's pouring rain and pouring snow.
I know.
Life is difficult. Okay. So the last item on here was the EC budget.
Mhm.
Well, let's see what that one was.
Do you know what the current balance is? Okay. Mhm. Maybe Christy could give you an update on the current
Yeah,
balance.
that would be,
The 2022 approved EC budget was $2,975, and that encompasses any green team.
Which year?
incentives as well.
which year?
This current year,
Current year.
2022, 2,975. Thus far, your expenses have been Anject dues for 475. The Green Team Zoom account, 150. The Sustainability Summit Conference, which 4 people went to, for 150. So your total expenses are 776, and your balance is $2,198.
And this-
Because the recycling stickers and magnets are being funded from a borough recycling grant. So they are not
Right.
coming out of your budget.
Clean communities, is that, or it's? Anyway,
Partial.
Okay.
She split it up, actually. Yep.
We've never spent more than 2,000 at the outside. And some years we've had a $4,500 budget.
So what do you want to do with this?
well,
Well, that's a good question.
we didn't get the rain garden grant for Knollwood, and I know that there are some expenses we were hoping to help out with, redo a little bit of that Knollwood and maybe do some educational material, so that, or just some plants and something could be towards that.
And we could certainly fund that and still have money left over.
Sure.
For the plants, when you consider there's not more than 50 plants there, which isn't gonna be more than $1,000. I assume we plant them, the kids will be planting them under supervision of the school. So if we want, we could spend the money on that
And it's up to
in
you,
September.
to you guys.
I would be happy to see that. We can have an informed discussion of it tonight. At the next meeting, I'd like to see us try to allocate the funds. So that's one area.
What are some areas that you spent them in the past?
Largely on dues for organizations and going to meetings. And they mostly ended up with the $1,400, $1,500 mark. So I think if we're going to spend money on something, it might be in the area of education in Fairhaven. Education of the population, what Fairhaven Environmental Commission is doing, get some more public input. It discourages me that we only see 2 or 3 people. God bless your heart, Susan, you come all the time. Imagine you're still here. But we only see 2 or 3 or 4 people coming to these meetings. And other boards are not dissimilar. People come if they see the issue being presented, like the planning board. But I'd like to see more people come out. I'd like to see more participation. And maybe we could spend this on inviting more people to come out.
May I also make a suggestion?
Sure.
So your next meeting is September. And what I want to encourage you to do is give some thought as to what you would request for the 2023. And as you consider that, that might be an opportunity to entertain action items or priorities or things you would like to see advanced that you think a small infusion, if you had some money, you would be able to move this forward. If you could have a discussion more about what you want to do moving forward, it might help you figure out what kind of funding you think the commission needs. And also it might actually help you figure out what you want to spend, what's left in this year's budget.
Well, there are several rain gardens. I mean, if we had our druthers, rather than having volunteer activities to put them in, there are several rain garden locations that have been proposed. And I wouldn't mind seeing the money spent on putting those in and maintaining them. And they could look very pretty. They're a reminder to the town of environmental issues, and they're a pleasure to look at.
Nice idea.
Do we do operating budget and capital budget or just one budget?
Just for the commission?
Yeah.
Just it's a program budget really for things you want to work on or do.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is ongoing operations like conferences and memberships, and
Yeah.
then maybe a little capital for rain garden or a
Look at
study.
it that way.
Well, also this is part of the green team is part of this too. And the green team, I think, because we're actually like doing activities and stuff, we probably have more expenses and we probably could have used some of that money a little bit better this year, but just in terms of.
Well, you
I was
guys
just
have it
gonna
on your
say-
agenda, don't you?
Yes. to
Okay.
figure
And I
out our
hope you'll
budget.
bring it in the September meeting. Bring in.
Yeah, so Kelly, we're talking about what our budget is on the green team side too, or what we're thinking we need. So that will help with
Good.
this conversation.
Yeah, our,
Not reflected as an expense here, but was approved and discussed was some expense for Love Where You Live today, but the way it kind of shook out, it wasn't with municipal finance, it just wasn't timely.
Yeah, that was kind of, it
But
came down
that's
to the
something
timing.
like, if you want to allocate in the beginning, that way it's earmarked.
Well, and to pick up on your precise point that if we're going to be doing fall plantings at Knollwood, or the commission and green team is going to be doing fall plantings at the
Sure.
rain garden in Knollwood, you'll want to begin the paperwork like now
Yeah,
in order to have those funds to go to the vendor to acquire the plants.
Right.
So.
Although last time we needed the plants, we went down on a Thursday after having decided on a Wednesday and got.
I'll bet somebody else paid for them then. If you want to use your budget.
Paid for them and got reimbursed.
So we've been encouraged to go through the, that's nice. But we would like to try to plan these things in advance so
Sure.
that we could use the municipal procedure, which involves a requisition and or not
You're right.
yeah, but what's after requisition?
And a purchase order.
A purchase order, thank you.
Yeah.
Vendor approval, there's a lot of
Yeah,
steps.
the steps.
And
No, no,
purchase
no.
orders are
Michael knows
approved
very
every
well.
30 days.
Yes, and that's the other problem is that then you have to get stuff approved by the council and it just, everything takes
Yeah,
longer.
by the
So
time it's
to that-
December and you want to be planting fall flowers.
Yeah.
There was some discussion about having petty cash, like, is that something we can allocate? Can we just say 500 goes to?
Why
I
don't
don't
we,
think so, but Nancy would be able to speak to
why
that.
don't we, I'll just make that one of my things I'll try to chase down and bring
Yeah.
back for you.
Because there were just
guys.
things like at the last minute, we wanted to get 5 posters. We're like, wait, we need these 5 posters. Now, there was no way we could have gotten that approved. And there are some things that in events that happened more last minute that you can't anticipate necessarily.
Yeah.
We try to anticipate, and that was our first time. So next year, we'll
Yeah,
be a lot better.
Of
I
course,
think
yeah.
if you
She'd
submit
be the
your,
person to talk to.
it would be an interesting, I'll find out, but perhaps if you submitted your budget request broken out by programs, including a petty cash line item, I don't know.
Yeah, she's the person to speak to, but I mean, if you know you're going to do Love Where You Live Day, you know you're gonna use Powerhouse Signs, January 1st, just put it open purchase order for like $500, and then as the year goes on, then you have that, you draw on, if that's the budget cost that you decide on.
You've got the right
Last
person here in your.
Last
corner.
minute things, we'd have to talk to Nancy, I don't.
Yes.
Well, that's what we need.
We'll try to avoid the fire drills because
Yeah.
it's hard for everybody.
Well, the DPW does this every day. They don't put in a purchase order and wait 30 days to get a new fire hydrant cover or something, you know. It must be done.
We have a
And
work with
reimbursed.
Spearhaven Harbor. Series of purchase orders.
It has to be reimbursement. They have the town has an account with the hardware store.
Yes. they do.
And they just go into the hardware store and say, put it on the account, because I was there when they did it.
That's what it is.
Tell Harvey to put it on the account, so there must be a way we can do that.
Mhm.
I
But it-
promise
I
to
think you could
try.
set it up such that you'd have a vendor for your planting, say, and you could have a line with that planting entity, you know, to purchase plants, you know, on an ongoing basis for the whole year. That'd be a way to do it. Same thing with signage, same thing with, gravel, stuff like that. You probably could set up an account so you could do it for like risers or something like that for the whole year.
The town has an account with Risers right now.
Then you just have to get the right authorizations for it, you know, if there's a existing account.
Exactly. So, Chrissy, I'll look to you and Tracy to sort of give guidance there.
Okay.
I'll take my lead from Christie.
Okay, good. Okay, that's the last item on the agenda.
So just to
Um,
clarify, since we won't be meeting again until September, did you want to do something with the remaining budget? I don't know if the commission discussed doing the rain garden at Knollwood. Is that what
We
you
were
want?
going to get suggestions for the budget coming in. Isn't that what we were looking for?
Yeah, I think that's a really worthwhile conversation, but if you want to be ready for back to school, to do, well, we could do it however you want. You want to wait and have the conversation?
No, I think we can work between meetings.
I
Okay.
believe Brian has been really in touch with Knollwood
Mhm.
staff to get that project kind of going, Brian and Jesse. I just don't know where it stands.
Okay.
They were kind of the point people on that.
So then, just so we don't leave you hanging between now and September, October,
My suggestion is that the commission, individual members of the commission, send in recommendations for budget items.
things you want to do.
And I'd like that to be done in, say, the next, by the middle of August. Month, roughly a month from now. And if we could get that in and the minutes will reflect that, then we could act on that
Okay,
and have it all going and just ready to vote on in the September meeting. we could in fact, out of that process, have a budget recommended by the September meeting.
I think
You're
that's
ahead of
too-
schedule. If you do that, you're still ahead of
Yes.
schedule, so.
Let's shoot at that because you'll never end up ahead of.
No, it's.
Can I just double back though? So to Tracy's point though, we won't be able to start rain gardens in September though, if we do it that way.
I think, yes, we will.
Why don't Christina and I
Yes,
okay.
explore the ability for you guys to spend that money?
Okay.
And, yeah.
Exactly.
I guess I'm just concerned because of the steps that do take and then.
Whoever, if whoever spends money will be reimbursed, for example, that's a guarantee.
No.
No, I think if you sat down and talked to the finance people, I mean, obviously, we probably have a landscaping item over in DPW. So the money for the plants, they could come out of the 2,000 that are currently in the budget for environmental commission. I think you might have to just sit down and figure out how to do that, set up a purchasing agreement. And then things like, rocks and soil, I would believe, I wouldn't be surprised if you could get that via DPW's already existing purchase orders.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Okay, so Chris.
I mean, what are you gonna need for the rain gardens? I mean, you're gonna need the actual plant material, and you're also gonna need some hardscape material, right?
You're gonna need land, the fill.
Yeah, so existing topsoil and some sort of fill dirt. I mean, both of those probably are under existing. I can't imagine that DPW doesn't have that. It's always been historically, the Environmental Commission has not typically done a lot of the budgetary items. They've worked through DPW or the other organizations in the town. To like sewers were always, or stormwater was always part of the DPW. Parks were typically done by DPW, but under the Environmental Commission gave guidance and such. So it wouldn't be that outrageous to say, hey, we already have an idea, we want to move forward with the rain gardens. Can we get the other pieces of the materials through the DPW or whatever?
So there's really two problems that are coming up here. One is to get the funding through them. That I think Christie and they can, they're talking with the.
I can reach out to
Finance
Brian.
people.
and
You already
Jessica.
have the funding, right? You already have the funding. We have the
Well,
funding.
And I can
That's
figure out
right,
what to-
exactly how we handle that funding.
You have
The other thing
$2,000. And that would be the item, I would suggest that's for the items that are not on the already existing lists. Do you know what I mean? Like the plant materials.
Right. Now, the question is, are we also asking for manpower from the DPW, which is pretty well strapped right now?
No, the way that Jesse and I wrote up the Knollwood grant, it was because remember that these Knollwood rain gardens are pre-existing. It just needs a little bit of help. So I'm even not sure how much hardscaping we need, obviously some, and then the plants. But the idea was also to have the students of Knollwood Green Team help do the laboring, the watering, and most of that stuff. So it's not talking about heavy equipment or laborious,
Okay.
job. We had the idea of maybe doing like an educational sign that
Yeah.
kind of like the dock, what you see down the dock, being like, what is a rain garden? How does it work? Just for students and passerbys to also learn a little bit more about that as well. So that was estimated around 700, 500 to 700. We don't know exactly whether that happens or not right now, or that's another story, but I just, we do have a preliminary budget that we submitted and timeline, so we could happily share that, with you guys as well too.
Because if we know that, we can just put the purchase order in for what we need. I mean, that's right.
If you know what you would like and you have a quote for it, then send it to me.
Okay.
That's how it works.
And the only note I wanted to offer was getting plants from the right vendor is important.
And Brian has a vendor who's proven to be reliable and deliver good product.
And I will say, just to give a local plug, Sickles does have a native section that's phenomenal. It's
Yeah.
new, and a native plant section.
Oh, we do?
It's phenomenal. Yeah, it's really good. It's fairly extensive. There's lots of options, lots of variety.
Lots of money?
Some.
Okay. Did we answer the questions now?
I think so, yeah.
I will reach out to Brian, Jesse, and Kelly, who have already been working on sourcing the plants and whatever they're doing to Rain Garden, and have them put something together for me to start the financial wheels turning. Does that sound right?
That's
Sounds right.
awesome.
Okay.
Very good, Chrissy. Okay, that takes care of item K. The council update.
Well, we covered several items, such as the bamboo and de Normandy. The only thing we haven't touched on that I feel like I should come back to is on the convening of the invasives group, which has become increasingly important. At the most recent, no, at the council meeting where the bamboo ordinance was adopted, the municipal attorney, Mr. Cannon, referenced the role of this invasives group to be kind of an ongoing source for guidance in terms of, you know, as you begin to understand the nature of the invasives problem, what are additional things that you may want to consider either advising on or to the Environmental Commission, to the Shade Tree Commission, to the natural area, or even adding additional prohibitions. So I think that it's important to have the first meeting. I've been the logjam on this. Well, I wasn't the logjam initially, but there was some question as to how to convene this group. That's been resolved. And we will send out an invitation for a Zoom to the group. And I have green light now for that. So, yeah. Do you know what does everybody remember what we're talking about? So there's, have you walked through the 3rd Street connection from 3rd to the Fields?
Yes, the path.
And have you noticed what's
Yeah.
happening there? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, what's happening there is it's been, well, it is still pretty thickly, densely covered with invasives and all sorts of invasive trees. I mean,
You can't even see the mound anymore.
Right.
It's just like
Yeah.
huge invasives all over. It doesn't look like a pile of
Right.
brush anymore.
And some residents have taken it upon themselves to clear. And
Good.
yes, it's real activism. They're out there clearing sweat and elbow grease, and they're planting native trees. The trees have been sponsored by individuals. They have to go water them. Some trees are suffering from lack of watering, as the case was sponsored. But people will help each other out, I'm sure. You see a tree in distress, please water it. But the reason I mention that is because it is a good example of the kind of invasive problem we have, a natural pathway that was really getting swallowed up over time. We were losing, the natives are gone. And after that, the invasives simply take over and continue to move to new areas. And once you see it, an invasive planting or a tree, you begin to see it, it's really everywhere. So the problem is bigger and growing, and it will need a plan of attack, and it needs folks to work collectively. The 3 groups that have sort of shared jurisdiction over this would be the Environmental Commission, Shade Tree Commission, and the natural area. So there's been an appointee from each of those groups that has stepped up. Thank you, Michael. They're going to convene and begin to talk about how to advance a plan to address this pretty significant problem. And so that's the first start.
Apropos, maybe that, but it just occurred to me that we had a lot of invasives growing in park down by the beach. I got one of my kids got me a weed whacker. He said that weed whacker you got won't do anything to it. The new ones are battery powered and really very high powered.
Oh, good.
They cleaned everything out in a half an hour.
Yeah.
And they sell them at Home Depot
Okay.
or Lowe's, one of the two. But Ryuki, RYOKI, it's Japanese brand. And it's really a lightweight plastic, very strong, well put together. I
How
was
loud is it?
amazed how nice it was.
Is it quieter?
Well, the weed whacking part is noisy, and that's the only part you hear.
That's good.
There's no gasoline engine, so
Exactly.
it's just a battery electric engine. There's no noise from that.
Yeah, I have a battery operated weed whacker.
Do you?
Yeah, it's something quieter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
No motor. Yeah.
It's
You
a
have to
dream
get
to
one.
use.
Yeah, no gas.
So I put my other one out by the curb and it went away in a matter of hours.
Sure.
Somebody else is whacking with the old one. Okay, I think we're pretty well done for the night. Anything else we should be considering? Okay, adjournment in order.
Shall I open it for public comment?
Okay,
Okay, if you have a question, please raise your hand and I will move you over. No,
All right.
okay.
Mm.
Good night to everybody.
You want to request a motion to adjourn?
Well, I was going to just say we're adjourned.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
An engineering approach. But I think we are adjourned and good night.
okay, we'll see you
And we will
September
see you in
14th.
September.
Yeah.
Meeting is adjourned.
No.
Thank you all for your
Are we
time.
hybrid the rest of the year, or what,
That's a good question.
Are we what?
are we hybrid, Zoom?
No,
person?
what I'm going to propose, let's make that a judgment of all of you. I would personally like to see it back here. I just think the conversation is more effective. And not be hybrid from this point out. How many of you would like to see it be totally on Zoom? Anybody?
Well, so I have an odd situation. I'm working from Chicago during the week for this year.
Oh, wow.
But I told them I'm not gonna do it in July. That's why I'm here at this meeting.
Hmm.
So, but in January, that will change. I'd much rather we do in person. But,
Okay,
But for you,
I've been doing it
technically-
from a hotel in Chicago.
I'm perfectly
Wow.
willing to do it.
Thank you.
I'm willing to do it by exception.
This is a very much one-off, so September, October, November, December, maybe December, I could figure out how to be here, the holidays.
That
So
would
3 months.
We'd rather have your participation than
Thank you.
be rigid. So we could do that. I would consider that to be, is there anybody else who cannot make it? Anybody online?
They all dismissed.
Yeah, I mean, September, October might be a little bit harder for me, but it's a priority, so I usually can make it.
Okay, if you could,
Yeah.
it'd be great. I think conversation, you can see people's faces.